This is a conversation I recorded with a friend of mine named Gary about 2 years ago for his podcast. Even though many of my views have changed and evolved since then, I think we cover some important ground for those on the journey of self-understanding. In this 2.5-hour discussion, we go over topics such as enlightenment, how to identify quality teachers, the utility of belief, and more. Please check out his podcast. I'll link it in the description. Now, enjoy this episode of Cusp of Infinity.
All right, so how are we feeling today, man?
Things are good, man. I had some integration over the last couple of days, actually, from some insight, which has actually been interesting. I had a confrontation with a pretty I don't know how to put it other than just a person far on the path, and we had a lot of good discussion about things. And one of the beautiful things about having conversations and engagements is other people's understandings kind of can rub off on you, even without like meditation. You can kind of like get something if you are listening carefully and investigating carefully enough in your own experience. So that's something that's pretty fascinating. And I think it's often underutilized, is that direct transmission between two people. Say, like, if you were to have a conversation with an arhat, someone who's fully enlightened, or whatever that means in whoever's head, because that means tons of different things for many different people, but specifically the Buddhist Theravada 4 sages, like, the line of communication will, if you're open enough, be like clear. I don't know how else to say that.
Like a clear transmission of energy.
Yeah, it's like, because they're not lying to you.
Yeah,
like,
you can just tell their authenticity in a way.
No, it has nothing to do with their authenticity. It has everything to do with you listening to what they say and seeing if it's true.
Oh, I see.
And your own irrefutable direct experience verifying what they've said to be accurate. But since what you believe reality is so set in your own ways, you've actually never looked to investigate what they're suggesting. And so it's like, through their own confidence and their suggestions of investigation, you then point your consciousness in a place that you've actually never put it. And then from that sort of activity, because you would have even thought to have put it in that place.
Yeah.
From that, it's your own insight at that point. It's not.
It has to be your own.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the belief or them being some god or some having some better than you type of thing. It's just any
It's your own realization that is aided though by somebody that has reached their own realization, right?
Correct.
Do you think
Go ahead.
somebody has to be an arhat? I can't even say arhat. How do you?
It's either arhat or arhat. It's depending on what. Yeah.
Do you think somebody has to be an arhat to be able to transmit that frequency to people, or is it something that, like, can somebody just become awakened without a transmission or of conversation, or is it just really easy through conversation?
You can absolutely wake up without a conversation. And to transmit, I don't know. I think it helps because, like, if I were just someone that just like a normal person that was just like listening to Alan Watts one day and then talked about Alan Watts to a friend, the likelihood of that friend waking up is unlikely.
Yeah.
But if you were to directly talk to Alan Watts, or
I know what you mean.
I don't even know if Alan Watts I don't really know where he was at, but he clearly had a lot of insights. So
yeah, he kind of knew what was going on.
So it's kind of like that. Like,
I know what you mean, like how many certain degrees of separation of enlightenment.
Yeah, like one of the first times that happened, we can just call this pointing out instructions. That's a pretty common term for this type of thing, or some people call it transmission, which makes it sound like this insane, like kind of like they tap your forehead and you like become enlightened. It's not,
right.
It's not like that. It's more of like, "Hey, have you checked your shoebox? Yeah, you should look in there. You look in the shoebox and there's like 50 pounds of gold or something." It's like, "Oh, cool." Like,
Yeah,
so it's more of like, "Hey, look over there," and you look over there and you're like, "Holy fuck, that's." I don't know if I can
it's
if I
over
can
there.
finish,
Yeah,
but
you never thought to look over there before.
yeah. But one of the in the Tibetan most in Tibetan certain Tibetan traditions, specifically Dzogchen, they almost require, or not, they don't require it, but it's very common for before
That's with
someone's
Peter Ralston, right?
Dzogchen.
Yeah.
No,
Am I thinking of something else?
I think so.
Okay, go
Peter
on.
Peter Ralston doesn't do any Zog. He's not into any of that. He doesn't even advocate for like concentration practice or anything. He's just
How do you pronounce it? I mean, well, how do you spell it?
uh, Dzoj.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm thinking of something else. Hold on.
Yeah, Chen.
It's great perfection, great contemplation.
Yeah, its translation of Dzogchen is, it's often considered the pinnacle of the entire Buddhist, all Buddhist practice.
Mm.
Um, the great perfection is one translation, or the the great encapsulation, or the great completion is another term for this.
The great
Um,
completion.
and it said that if someone's going to begin their practice in Dzogchen, having pointing out instructions from a lama or a teacher is mandatory. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless.
Oh,
Because otherwise, it's like, because the
that's
whole
interesting. So what
um,
is Dzogchen? If you could sum it up, do you know? Because I don't really know much about Dzogchen.
I'm not an expert at all,
It's okay.
and I've only known about it for a short amount of time. But from my understanding and short amount of practice, it's the um, settling into the natural state of the mind.
Mm.
So the effort that one puts into the practice has nothing to do with concentrating on a specific object or picking any focal point at all. But it's essentially, the premise is that the Buddha nature within everyone, the bodhicitta, which is this term that describes this, essentially the field in which everything is. And this bodhicitta has the qualities of compassion and luminosity and awakeness. So this is already here. And so the whole practice, I mean, it's also not like that surprising. Most spiritual discussions and teachers always talk about how at the final point, the understanding is that it's something that was never gone and never lost.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dzogchen sort of cuts through all the extra um, secondary routes and goes directly for, it's the direct path essentially, or a direct connection, a direct contact with that. Um, and
Mm.
um, because you and I are talking, but in our experience right now, there's already this enlightened Buddha nature,
Mm-hmm.
this enlightened state, and it's literally already here. Like, you might think about it, like you might think conceptualize, like, well, how is that?
I'm looking
Even you,
around.
yeah, even the conceptualization of like, how is that? It's coming from an already awakened person. So to even consider how is that's already taking steps away from it.
To consider it's
Like,
coming from.
how do I get there is already setting you up in a position to miss the point
Yes, yes,
entirely. Yeah.
because it's just another attachment to wanting something. It's just another want. The want to be enlightened is just another want. It's just it's clinging to non-clinging, essentially, right? Yeah, that's the idea. It's the
That's
essence
one way
of.
to see it.
So what is Dzogchen? It just cuts right through that and just you. Is it just
It's seeing all things as the arising of nothing. So essentially and I'm sure I'd be roasted by a lot of llamas here, but
for
the
lamas that roast people?
yeah the sort of the synonym or term that they often use for enlightenment is the realization of Rigpa. And
Mhm.
Rigpa is this um, awakeness of everything. And this is essentially what one resides in or abides in during Dzogchen. Oftentimes people like to say Dzogchen is
Oh,
doing nothing because nothing needs to be done. Essentially,
hmm.
you're remaining of Rigpa, mindful of Rigpa, or not even mindful, just being perfect, being the perfection. And the great, this perfection is, um, will be recognized. But if you were to say, like, give a lay practitioner this practice, like, this is considered the pinnacle of Buddhist practice. Like, I think there's in Tibetan, in the Tibetan model, I think there's like 9 different stages that one will go through in their practices. Like some are related to Vipassana and Shamatha and mindfulness, or the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and where they're analyzing the body, they're analyzing or they're being mindful of the body, feelings, all these, like, there's so many different avenues one might take. But at the very pinnacle, and it's not necessarily like it's better than, but it's just that it's the most um
True.
no, it's the most, if you're to take it, like, if you're like the closer you are, like, to awakening, like, this is how I see it, is like the closer one is to awakening, the more accessible Dzogchen will be. Like, if you have a lot of mental identification, clinging, then doing a mindfulness based practice, like just being mindful of, like, the body and being
Mm,
mindful of the breath, that one would be a little more appropriate. But if
mhm.
you've done like a lot of those practices, done all this stuff, and maybe it didn't work, but you're also like very like you've maybe had like stream entry, and you've had kenshos, or you've had insights into the nature of anicca, dukkha, anatta, these types of things. Dzogchen might be an appropriate fit for that person.
I know what you mean. It's not for
Um,
beginners.
I mean, yeah, a beginner could do it, but what they would get out of it is questionable.
Mm,
They might just they just might have they might just leave and just be like, oh, I was just sitting, nothing happened. Like, they
mm.
just have this sort of like, I don't know why I would do that, like, kind of attitude. Like, and that's why having a direct instruction, like, I have this book right now. I'm going to show it to you. Um, um, I got this book recently. It's called it's probably backwards, but
Part of the great perfection.
yeah, Heart of the Great Perfection by Jajom Wingpa.
Mm.
Jajom, he's a lama that Tuku, who apparently is like transmigrated like 25 times since like Padmasambhava translated or brought Buddhism to Tibet. Um,
He
the
transmigrated.
Yeah, like he reincarnated, just decided to come back over and
Oh,
over. At least
oh, wow.
that's how the story goes.
Yes.
Whether you believe it or not is a completely different.
How do they know? Intuition.
No, the Kukus, they will tell their followers where they're gonna transmigrate to, and the followers will
Oh,
go there.
wow.
Like Dudjom, this
That's
specific
that's crazy, dude.
I don't like have verification for this, but this is how it goes. Like the guy in this story, like the introduction of this, essentially talked about how the um, followers of this man, essentially when he was dying, um, like he basically said, go to I forget exactly where. It's like some place called like Pamoko or something. And he's like, meet me, or go to Pamoko if you have faith in me. This old man will beat you there when he was dying.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Did
is
he?
to say, like, yeah, it was
Wow,
like a 3-year trip to get there or something.
that's crazy.
And they showed up to his Pamoko, and um, at this kid's house, he at 3 years old, he told his mom, "We're gonna have guests," and essentially, when they came in, he um, began to speak with them in their native tongue.
Wow,
And there's a lot of stories like this.
that's insane, man.
And so whenever I hear people like say, "Oh, that's all bullshit," and I'm like, well, you might be right, but the fact that there's just I don't feel like that many 3-year-olds are bullshitting like types.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
mean,
crazy.
you could say the parents are, but the fact is that it's not just that they met this kid; it's that these kids are
It's
like
nuts.
doing things that are ridiculous. Like, um,
There's a lot of stories of that, of children just having, like, it seems that they seem to have psychic powers, and it's almost like something that we lose touch upon, like kids seeing apparitions and spirits and things like that. Like it seems to be something that we just lose. Like I don't know if it's like touching into the source, or
I don't know.
I don't know, like our conditioning process. Or it is it's crazy, man.
I know
Crazy
that
phenomenon.
the lamas and tulkus, their interest has only to do with the enlightening of as many human beings as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The author of the book that not the author, but the initiator, he was like a guy in the late 1800s. Um, and apparently he was able to, over 1,000 of his followers realized Rigpa.
Mm-hmm.
And which is to say 1,000 of them realized enlightenment, realized their own nature, which
Is what?
you have to find out for yourself, right? Anything I say will be instantly invalid.
Yes, it's a subjective truth, right? It's like any words that you put onto it is insufficient. It's really just something you come
Well,
to the you
it's
feel.
not non-conceptual at
Yeah,
all.
non-conceptual, exactly.
Um,
Well, we can use concepts to point the way and help people find their own way. Like you can find the path, but you have to walk the path yourself. Like that's as good as concepts will do. They'll show you the path, but you have to walk it yourself. And then whatever you got to do, everybody's different. Like there's 7.5 billion people on Earth. We all have our own journey.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
would Jogshen, is that like to show you how to walk the path if you already are kind of like aware of the path?
There is no path in Dzogchen. It's not like that. The beginning of this and the middle and the end is the same as a common thing said.
Mm.
Um, Once you have the pointing out instructions, it's just basically sitting.
Just basically sitting.
You're not doing much.
Wow. So I guess that's what most monks subscribe to, right? That seems like the pinnacle of Buddhism. It seems like Dzogchen that's what that's like the pinnacle of just reaching everything and nothingness at the same time. It seems to be just beyond concept, beyond words, simply the current moment, right?
Maybe you might be able to get away with that, but I think a lot of lamas would say sort of the problem with that is that it's not that either.
It's both. It's like it is and it isn't, and then it also is neither.
It's neither that or this, and not both. Not it's yeah. It's um.
Anyone listening right now is like, what?
Well,
But it is. It's just beyond concept, beyond non-concept, and it's neither
I
concept
mean, this
and
is what
non-concept.
this is why nirvana is not something that should be anything that's discussed or conceptualized or
Yeah.
created into an ideal fantasy,
Hmm.
because someone will say, "Oh, so Nirvana is really good." Um,
But that right there is not what you want. That's not how
what
you attain
the,
nirvana.
it's not that. It's just the framework in which a person is operating under while the conceptualization is taking place is invalid from the beginning.
Mm.
Any conclusion that's made, any understanding that is had, has no meaning, and it
Hmm.
has no effect. And the effect, for an effect to take place, one essentially has to see through the processes of the intellect and this type of engagement that we're in right now.
Mm.
um, and see that um, all that's being said, while it's also this arising in the, so it's still a part of the great perfection, the conceptualization, the conclusions, um, or nirvana. It's still a part of that. There's no separation, but the issue is with the beliefs around them.
It's the beliefs.
Like we're playing a game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as long as we both know we're playing the game, then that's fine, right?
But some part of us believes that this game is going to lead somewhere that will be of some value, like in relationship to nirvana or something like that, which you could argue potentially is true, but not within this framework at all. Like there'd have to be a sort of a
Hmm.
shift that would need to occur, um, kind of like a quantum shift. Like you don't know how that shift would happen, but once it happens, then there's that understanding, and um, yeah, it's like once it happens, it's done. Like you can't go back. But to get to that point requires um, often, like my opinion is like it doesn't even effort and action and sort of this type of movement doesn't have much, doesn't really actually do as much as people might imagine it does. I think it's quite random, not completely random, but I think it's a little arbitrary whether someone gets it.
Wait, what do you mean by that? What is
Like
random? I don't understand.
not random, but like unpredictable. Like there is not like like a type of move, like a type of step by step thing anyone can do to guarantee any realization of anything at all.
Oh.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just happens.
Yes. It just happens. It's just part of the process.
I mean, Kuladasa says that it's an accident, though putting yourself in the position to be accident prone is meditation and
That's
engaging in these types of things. Like you're putting yourself in the danger zone essentially by contemplating, thinking, reading stuff that encourages you and helps you see more clearly. But um, at the end of the day, many people call it grace is the factor that you know things actually run by. Like you're saying whether or not you realize nirvana is not, you're not at the table essentially. I mean, which is kind of frustrating because like we have in our culture such a desire to be success driven and goal oriented and wanting to accomplish things by our own elbow grease. But this is a surrender
The surrender to the
process.
process.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Eventually, there'll be a point when you really have to surrender more, like truly have to surrender all the things that you had once believed. But
Yeah, I've heard this guy.
otherwise you'll just be in a place of just denial. Like,
Yeah, living a lie. I heard this guy Shanya Murti, I think his name is. Recently, I got suggested a video, and he said that pretty much what you just said, where it's you're not going to realize it. How do I put this? It's something that you will realize in time when your suffering will become unbearable. When you just reach a point where it's just you have to come to that divine accident that we were talking about, or
yeah,
you just really can't take it. And I know that sounds so horrible, but I think that's just that's the process. I really think that's just how it is, being in the human condition. Like, you're going to realize that there's no other way than the
yeah,
unspeakable truth, following the path.
yeah. Like I was talking to a buddy, and he talked about how, especially once a person stream enters, um, from that point forward, it doesn't matter what the person does. It's sort of like, the event horizon in a black hole. It's like you reach the point where not even light can return out of that gravitational pull. So there's literally, from that point forward, you cannot escape that. And so that's sort of like what stream entry is. Whereas like before that, you could be on the path and like the way I see it is like, if everything is like a black, like if all of existence is sort of like a gravity type, suspended in space, in the center there's this huge like black hole, sort of like a galaxy, and all spiritual seekers are like floating around, and some will get close to that black hole and some will get scared off because they don't want to go like into that void, or they don't want to lose themselves, essentially, because what they think they are, they've attached themselves so desperately to, when that's what's exactly causing them pain. Like that structure is sick, essentially. But once you get that, a specific insight to whatever, and I use stream entry because that's just easy for me to understand, like how to map this out. But there's other terms like kensho, or just the mini awakening, or it doesn't have to be like a classical stream entry. I think a lot of people get caught up on that, where they follow a specific map, like maybe Daniel Ingram, and they're like, oh, stream entry has to be exactly where I move up through the ninth jhana. Then I go into I forgot what it's called, but it's like a test, and then I go into a change of lineage, and then I have a cessation, and then I go into a fruition, and then I cycle back down. It's like, no, stop. Like it doesn't, that might happen, and you have no idea what just happened to you. So intellectualizing like how this stuff works doesn't really matter. I think the most important thing to understand is that this path isn't going to be one of like constant enjoyment and satisfaction and bliss. You're going to more and more have the unsatisfactory nature of reality rubbed in your face. And whether if you can't take that, you might break down and find that it's such a like a dire state that we're in, that it just kind of breaks apart your, like, you're not going to have you're not going to break down indefinitely. It'll just be like a moment, like a dark night. But I think a lot of misconception and a lot of damage happens because people aren't informed of the fluctuations and the ups and downs that happen.
Of the spiritual ascension. It's not just an ascension, it's also ups and downs, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like terrible either. You can be very like you can very wisely and skillfully move through these dark nights,
Mm,
which I think is a process or a byproduct of informing yourself of what to expect and having structures around you, like friends and teachers and books and, you know, good living conditions that will support you in that sort of moving out of the chrysalis of your previous state.
mm. Do you think we're like weirdly like low key reincarnating in this body? Like when we go through these, like jhanic states and just different maps, whatever model you want to use on this path and this experience, do you think it's like a almost like a sort of, like you said, coming out of the chrysalis, like metamorphosizing, almost like a ego death and then like a rebirth in this body? Like that's possible, right? You think that our personalities can just kind of rejuvenate
Well,
itself and just kind of like rework itself?
I think it depends on what level we're talking at. Like from what I consider the ultimate level, there is nothing that's being reborn. There's no
Yes,
individual
the
that's,
ultimate, the tip. There's, yes, I know what you mean.
yeah, like there's a series of processes and conditions that are, I would argue that at every moment you're being reborn. There's not
Mm,
a structure that's a constant thing that you think you can say is me or myself or mine that is in any way substantial that transmigrates between one moment to the next.
other than love.
I
Some may
mean,
argue love.
but is that a personality? Like it's love is a quality. It's a nature. It's a type of nature of things. It's
Mm, the nature of
for
us.
my it's sort of like it's obviously it's not a thing, but it's an element of reality.
Yeah. It's an
Um,
element of reality. It's like a
it's a
force.
it's a quality of the elements of reality.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Quality of the elements of reality. Yeah, that's
which
good.
you could maybe equate to some other word like freedom as well. Because
Yeah.
when you think of freedom, what is that?
It's a
A good a,
quality of the elements of reality.
a good way to understand freedom is to introspect on what awareness is. I've been doing these
Mm,
exercises, but before I take a large tangent, to close
please
off
do.
that, I'll get back to it. Um,
Okay.
the process of one's movement through like sort of the reincarnation as one's blossoming. Um, I think, um, like I said, there's not a thing in which is moving through any like process. Like it's conditions, and those conditions have qualities. Like one thought experiment I enjoy is the what's the when you were like 5 years old and to right now there's like 0% any of the same atoms in you, like
Hmm.
substance wise.
Yeah. Don't
um
we regenerate it every 3, 4 years or something like that? All of the atoms in our body.
it's the same, it's like something like seven or something.
Yeah,
um
something like that.
but from that point, I would argue like there is a completely different being here.
Mm.
um there is nothing that's the same from a physical standpoint that is here. What is the same though, is something that would be a good introspection question. Find
That
out
is a good, yeah.
what's the
What do you,
constant thing, what's the same, is it a thing even? Some people will immediately say, "Oh, the spirit." I would be careful.
that's not a
Uh,
thing. It's not a spirit. It's just a process. That's how I would describe it. It's a giant unconceivable, unconceptualizable process, but it's also nothing at the same time. It's yeah, man, that's good. I like that. It's such a simple thought experiment too.
Like you have the sense of you're the same person, but what is the difference? Like what do you look at and say this is the same as when I was 5, despite literally every atom being different?
Hmm.
There is no part of you. You could take a clone, like what am I trying to say? Like it's sort of like if a chair, if you're to take wood from like a different tree, and like I just come up with really random analogies, but it's like if you had a chair and you took wood from another chair and it was a completely different chair, you wouldn't say that's the same chair. But for
Okay.
some reason, you take a little you that's composed of completely different elements, completely different structure, and then you now, and you say, oh, that's the same me. Why?
Hmm.
Are you special in some particular way other than other types of things in reality?
So let's say I do say it is the spirit of the chair or the spirit of me. Why would you say that's the wrong answer?
I wouldn't say that. I would just ask why you would say that.
Okay, so I'll
And
play
I
the
would
person saying the spirit. Well, I would describe spirit as more of like it's like a process. The spirit is it seems to be patterns of behavior through a person or even an object, I guess. I guess objects also have spirits in places have spirits. So I guess, but it's just another idea. I know what you mean. Like,
Yeah, the caveat is that the investigation is only concerned with what we can directly analyze and experience in the present moment. Nothing having to do with concepts or assumptions or
yeah.
predictions or theories. None of that has any way in which can be um, grounded or verified. Like it's just a floaty sort of thing that could be wrong. But what we see right here, right now, it can be misperceived, but if looked at correctly, it will reveal something that if if looked at correctly will be an insight. Like, and so that's the type of investigation of like, oh well, what is actually like, well, I feel I'm the same person. Okay, well that's a feeling. That's all that is. Is
Mm.
that okay? What's a feeling, right? Well, you tell me. Like, what's a feeling? Like, is there some reality of a feeling that is apart from the experience of bodily sensations?
We say that again?
Is there an aspect of feelings that is separate from bodily sensations?
Hmm. I would say no.
Okay, so our conviction in our own stability since a child is based on the particular sensations we have in our bodies. Is that somehow like justification? No, it's just happens to be how our body is at this
Mm.
moment. Okay, we could ask, okay, well, why is it that way? And we would look and we would see thought structures that encourage that particular feeling based off of habitualization to what we call normal or what we call an identity in a self. And so if we can deconstruct things by looking at them carefully, as opposed to just assuming the reality of a situation, which is what people normally do, then we can actually see what's real and what's belief patterns and
Mm.
assumptions. And it's that type of investigation that leads to um, the insight that could be had from this investigation of, and then say someone takes that all the way, like looks at that until they have nothing left, no stone left unturned. Um, I would argue that that person will know something that most people will never know, but that what they know will be real, assuming they're doing this in a way that's only concerned with the direct empirical observation of things.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, man.
and it's a lot of fun. I mean, but
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is fun.
when you look at these things, you also have to be cognizant that, so like we're playing a game right now, we're having a conversation, but when you're starting to do this type of practice, so this would be Vipassana, um, the possibility that you'll recognize something that wasn't supposed to be quote unquote recognized, could tear the rug out from under the structures of personality completely. And many people respond to that in different ways. Some people can't handle it, and some people can. And when you can handle it and you go through that process of transmutation of the self, or the seeing through of this type of thing, what you find, I guess, that's there's nothing really to be said about what you find, because you finding anything is not what would happen. The you in which the finder is not it's not how that experience is presented. So
Yes. The only thing to find is that there is nothing to find. And then what? Keep chopping wood and carrying water.
it's up to you.
Yeah, and I think that's really the only realization I can come to after that is like, well, it's up to me.
And see for yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
and then what can be applied to what you're doing right now after this, and then what after now?
Mm.
How is that and then what any different than the and then what after enlightenment?
How is the and then what different?
After we're done with this conversation, why is that and then what, when you're done with this, have any particular more substance or less substance than the and then what after? There is no. It's just what we think, like somehow because there's a self, the and then what has some, like, I don't know, more like, I don't know, like, it's like the difference between the and then what's, there's no difference. It's just our
It's our mind's way to conceptualize something.
yeah, because everything from a self, the whole the whole thing is not to have that, and not to have, like, um something that erases it, because
'Cause that's not the point, right?
it can't beyond that point, it doesn't understand what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, um there's no point, like, the difference between, like, what would be happening is just that there would be no one to say that it's happening to them, but it's no different. It's just,
Yeah. I can sense the difficulty in trying to express the unexpressible, man. And
it's not, it's hard. It's hard.
it's really because it's trying to conceptualize the something that is not of conception. It is a mind state of, I guess, it's nothing, but it's also everything at the same time.
Well, everything that modern man has believed himself to be is conceptual. Like, if we put things under a microscope, what we take ourselves as are concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And so to imagine what a life would be without concepts is to imagine essentially what it would be like if we were dead. And we can't fathom this. But the reality is that reality isn't a concept.
Yes, I know what you mean.
So the only thing that would be different, the difference would be is that there would be no more concepts, but nothing would change.
Hmm.
No more concepts, no more you, no more. Like, if we look at this more deeply, like, what is a concept? Like,
A concept is a concept.
specifically, what's
Concept
it like? Yeah.
is a way that we use other concepts to explain something. It's just a constant building of concepts, our mind. Right? You can't explain a concept without a concept.
Yeah. Concepts are about other concepts.
Hmm.
Um, I don't have the answer to that either. I was just investigating that with you. Like, the way I see it is like a concept is a distinction made between two things, or a
Hmm.
yeah, like, and
Yeah.
like if we see an apple on a table, the concept is the distinction between the table and the apple,
Yeah.
and the labeling of what one is and what one is not, and vice versa. Like, but without those concepts, there'd be no distinction that could be made, and um, then there would be that reality.
Yeah.
And
Wow. Man, this is a far out conversation.
and then if you just apply that to Julian or Gary, if we apply that to the concept of that, see what that's composed of. Um,
Nothing.
or so the thing is, we don't see ourselves as concepts. That's the problem. Like, we talk about concepts, we know what concepts are intuitionally, but when we look at ourselves, we don't think of ourselves as a concept. We think of ourselves as, and there's a reality to it, that there is a reality to our existence that is real, and there's a reality to our existence that is conceptual, and the conceptual reality is taken the forefront,
Oh, I see.
and that's what we take as real reality. Because obviously, like, stuff is, you could say stuff is happening. There's not just nothingness. It's in the sense of experience happening. You can't deny it. But um, what happens within the mind is concepts have taken um, themselves to be real, as opposed to just distinctions.
And even the concept of ourselves has taken to be real.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is we identify with a concept that isn't even real.
There's no we which identifies. The we that identifies is a concept.
Yes.
Which is to say, like, no other organ in the body does this, by the way. That's an interesting thing to consider.
Does what?
No other believes itself to be real. Like, believes itself to be separate, or to have some identity, to have some personality.
That's interesting.
The brain is the organ that does that.
Brain. Very pompous. You're just part of the body. That is
like, the liver doesn't go on and say, oh, it's all about me. It's all about me. My name is Jeff. I'm the liver that is better than all other liver. Like, but this
I'm
is
the enlightened liver.
yeah, the liver is already enlightened. It's just
exactly.
It's so enlightened, it doesn't care. It's just,
oh man.
I say that joking. I mean, I consider enlightenment to be slightly different than just being an inert object, but some people consider that enlightenment, which I guess whatever. You can have
To
that
be an
opinion.
object?
Yeah.
I know.
Which,
I know what they get. I know what they mean. It's like there is no. It's just the object. There is no misidentification of them not being the speaker or the camera. They are just being them. They're just completely in the process, and I guess not suffering. They are enlightened beings. I can see that viewpoint. I think about that with even like children or even animals in a way. They're just doing their job. They're just completely in the process. And when we look at enlightened people, quote unquote, isn't it people that like seem to not have an ego? They're just simply in the process, like they're in the flow of things, or not even just like people that kind of just, you want to be around. Like they're just kind of, it seems to me like I want to hang out with people that are they're just in the flow, you know, and it's that same flow, I think, that maybe microphones are enlightened on and cameras are enlightened on, and just like these objects, it's just like that same, yeah, it's just kind of like easing in to, I've said this word a million times today, it's easing into the process. Because I've kind of, throughout my own meditations as of late, man, I've kind of just came to insights about just this process. That's what we are. Like there's something about just like what we are is beyond these bodies,
Yeah.
100%
Dude,
completely.
AA philosopher really got to you, huh?
Yeah, man. That is a very revolutionary technology. It really is.
I remember that question. He said something about we're all just processes, you know?
Oh, did he really? Oh, I didn't even remember that. Well, that's
Yeah,
probably
okay.
where I got it from.
Yeah, I remember you were looking at it, you're like, we're just processes. And your just mind was blown. I was like, that's funny.
Well,
But,
it's true. I've come back to that realization as of late, within the last probably 1 to 2 weeks. I'm like,
oh
this,
man, my Tibetan flag fell. Oh my God.
yeah, I saw it moving before. I just didn't want to, mess up
Oh
the
no.
mojo.
This is super important. I gotta keep that.
There we go.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I like the background, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Have you ever done any kind of martial arts?
Not formally. I mean, I did off and on, but I don't consider 6 months of just some stuff really.
Something.
I have more defense skills than the average person, but not by much.
Yeah.
I I started a position where part-time position where I help kids learn how to be ninja warriors, but
That's awesome.
that's about as far as my like martial anything goes. Like,
Well, what is it? All right, so I want to know about that a little bit. Like, how do you teach a kid to be a ninja warrior? Like, what does that
well, you
mean?
know the TV show.
Oh, so you're teaching them to go through like an obstacle course, kind of?
Yeah, it's not actually like legit
Oh,
like
okay.
kung fu. It's just kind of like this Americanized obstacle type course. But it's just
Yeah,
fun.
I don't get you.
I did parkour for like a few years, and I kind of wanted to like have an enjoyable position, like where I'm. But like with COVID, it's not possible. But
Yeah.
like I'm not working right now
Mm.
in that position. But um, this is like totally tangential. Like, but I just like enjoy the process of movement and flowing through like obstacles and using this meat suit as best I can.
Mm. You
Um,
like dance?
yeah, it's fun. I don't take it seriously. I
Yeah, I don't
think
think you can.
I think if I took it too seriously, people wouldn't like to dance with me as much.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think you can. Like, I think you have to just know how you dance. Like, whatever your dancing style is, this is what you go with, you know? Some people, you just gotta own it. If you can't dance, just own it. And that's dancing itself.
Yeah.
Just dance, though. We all need to dance more.
Um, but I think the line we were going on was pretty good. This idea of the human psyche having sort of developed sentience and sort of creating the tyranny of the ego structure.
Oh, that's
Um,
good. Yeah.
and
What
this
would you
is
say
the,
the purpose is of the ego structure? Not even purpose. Like, where,
I mean, it's a survival
yeah.
mechanism.
What is the evolutionary, um, the biological positive to have an ego? Being able to defend itself?
I can justifiably do things completely evil for my own gain
Survival? Yeah.
without any um, concern about whatever is outside of my circle of identification.
Yeah.
Because if my circle of identification includes my family and my tribe, I can kill and murder and do whatever I need to in order to protect that. And all the ego does is it just selects different structures in which to identify with, to the point where some people are only their only circle is their own body. Some people's
Mm,
circle is like their kids and family, and that's why you see
mm,
people giving their lives for those types of people for them, because their ego structure has considered them as valuable as themselves. It's like people say like, oh, people are so selfless. They won't like, and I'm not saying like these people are like somehow like not doing the right thing. Like if you're a mom or dad and you give your life up for your kid, yeah, that's, I'd probably do the same. But that's a byproduct of an excellently engineered system that has become really good at what it does. It's had that millions of years of training.
Yeah.
And to deconstruct it in a span of like a lifetime, damn, like
Yeah.
you're going against the entire force of Mother Nature, and that's
Mhm.
like why you don't see many enlightened beings, because that process is exceptionally difficult, painful.
Yeah, that is true. Bro. It's like going against the grain of Mother Nature. That is so true, man. It's like we're not only going against the conditioning of like our literal conditionings of how we were brought up, but our biological, like our genetic conditionings. And it's, oh man, that's insane. It's something, I don't know, man. It's like conscious evolution. It's not, it used to be like unconscious evolution. We used to just, it just used to be based upon, survival mutations. But now we're at a point where it seems to be, we're literally consciously evolving ourselves to go against the grain of essentially this universe. There's not really the universe. We're going against the grain of Mother Nature in a way, like
I think
Darwinian
so.
evolution.
I I also think that modern society has played a role that stifled this evolution. I say stifled tentatively because anything that occurs in nature is a byproduct of nature. So in that logic, the structure of modern society is more like just a virus or something. But it's gotten to a stage in which I would say it's become anomalous to the pattern of evolution, where I would say people are actually sick. The ego has lost its utility in the way that we're living. It hasn't lost its utility. It's just began to overstretch
Its
um,
boundaries.
what it's capable of accomplishing.
Yes.
Or we're stretching to a point where what is being accomplished transcends or moves past the developed stage of natural ego structure,
Mm.
um, which is kind of a complicated way of saying we've out evolved our own minds, and we have to catch up. We have to play catch up sort of inorganically by the spiritual process of waking
Yeah.
up. Otherwise, we'll actually destroy our ecosystem and our species,
Yeah, we don't want that. That's
which
the
is
thing.
already the trajectory. Like we're probably already going to do that to some
Yeah.
degree. We already have. It's like irreversible damage at this point.
Yeah.
But
Luckily, we are seeing a new light little by
you know,
little.
it's like
Good man.
yeah, to grab an extra water.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, saying building on what we were just saying is luckily we are seeing the light little by little. There are, you know, there is some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, I think. We are approaching the end of Kali Yuga, and maybe in the next incarnation we will approach a better world where we're all on the same page. I think we're in a time of like amnesia. I've heard from a lot of other people, like we're a time of forgetting what we are, a time of misidentification. And I think in order to be able to get to a point where we identify ourselves, it's going back to what we talked about before. We have to just get to a point where we're suffering so much. There's no other way other than to identify with the truth. And the truth is, you come to it. It's beyond words. It's beyond concepts. But until then, you're just living a lie, essentially. And
Yeah, I mean,
slowly the world is moving out of that lie. We're moving toward, I think just from like being able to have this conversation and being able to transmit this, and we bounce ideas off each other, and there's plenty of other people that are doing the same. I
mm,
think just proof of that is us knowing that we're moving toward the idea of identifying with the process, essentially.
this might be true. Um, I would say that's an interesting thing and could be true, and I think it is. But that process is really slow, and I would I wouldn't wait for anyone else. I would run as fast as you can, as fast as you're capable of, because waiting for the rest of the world to wake up will take hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But people have been waking up for thousands, even before, like thousands of years before now. They've been doing it. So there's no limiting factor other than what we are currently willing to participate in. Like, I think that's why our position is fairly good. Like, just being exposed to, like, you're exposed to a lot of people who have the potential to influence you in really positive ways. So do I. Like, just in my Sangha, there's my virtual Sangha, there's like people that have recognized truths that I have not touched. And because of their own influence on me, I've been able to move much further than I could have reached on my own. Like
Hmm.
I made connections with formal teachers. I've made friends that I will have for as long as I can see. I don't see any end to that. And so this comes into, I guess, the question of what's the main factor for awakening? And in my opinion, it's finding a community of people that are interested in awakening
Yeah.
and not waiting for your friend group who may be somewhat interested but are still behaving in just normal like patterns of behavior. Identification, which is not a judgment statement on them. It's more of just what is your goal? What is your intention?
Hmm.
Um, because we're humans at the end of the day, and humans are extremely social creatures. And the degree at which our mental structure, belief systems, goal orientation has a tremendous amount to do with the people that we put ourselves around.
Hmm.
More to do with any, like, you can meditate 4 hours a day, and if you just hang out with people who are not interested in that and actually are antithetical to your practice, the net result will be sort of a balancing between, and you might bring them up, you might carry your friends and show them a lot of really interesting things. And I would say if that's going to be the case, you should have, you're carrying them up as well as you're learning from another type of group of people as well. So you want to have that sort of
Mm.
people that are higher than you, people that are lower than you, people are at the same level of you.
Yeah.
And this isn't a hierarchy. This is more of like a lateral thing because there's no hierarchy. There's no values. Like, but
Yeah. There's
um,
no ranks.
if we're talking about wisdom, there is ranks. But
They're not formal.
it,
I know what you mean.
it doesn't create a, like, no one's better than another. But
Yeah.
you can't say going into a blacksmith that you can walk in that and start making steel swords because you just think you and the blacksmith are equals in value. You say, oh, well, the color of our skin doesn't matter. And, or I don't know what argument might be said about the blacksmith, or we're just human beings. Like, well, yeah, you're a human being that doesn't understand things. So,
Man, that's a burn. Yeah,
um,
I know what you mean. Yeah,
so
understand the nature. Like, yeah, it is. It seems to be. It is, but it's not like superiority. You're right. It's just a simple fact of if you know, you know. I know what you
yeah,
mean. Hmm.
you have to also be careful with selecting people, teachers, because a lot of teachers can be narcissists, and a lot of teachers can abuse their students because of the naivete of beginner spiritual seekers,
Yeah.
um,
Human nature, man.
which is fascinating. I think it's a fascinating area of research of how exploitation occurs so frequently in spiritual communities,
Yeah.
especially with like the sort of like the male who's enlightened and has um, so many expectations or demands, and there's a lot of stories about this type of thing happening.
Yep.
um, and
It sucks.
and the thing is that they actually do have insight. A lot of them have a lot of
Yeah,
insight. Like,
that is true. Just because you commit like horrible acts doesn't mean you don't have wisdom. It's true.
yeah, it's crazy. People often think, oh well, if he's awake and I've gotten like transmissions from him and things, he has to be a good guy. It's like, no, dude, this is not how this works. This
No,
is
they don't go together like
we
that. I
need to
feel like.
we need to grow up, recognize some things about the spiritual path that have been just wrongly programmed into us. Like, spiritual enlightened beings doesn't mean they're good people.
Hmm.
um that's one of the main things. Also, like, the path itself is not, well, you're not, if I'm gonna like go on a rant about like the things that I find to be like um just issues, I think often that people have expectation wise, like going into the practice, seeking out teachers, is um morality and insight, two different things.
Hmm.
um
They,
well,
they they correlate, but they're not. They don't like. It's not causation. Insight doesn't cause good morals, but there is. I think there is some kind of correlation between
yeah,
insight and being a good person. But yeah, I know what you mean.
it's with the more insight you have, the less need you have to be as neurotic and traumatized, which is generally the causal factors for being a dick. Is
Yes,
projection,
simple
and
equation.
you were treated terribly, and now your life goal is to treat others that way because that's how what makes you feel. Whatever. I mean, that's a very basic, probably, statement, but
Basic, but yeah, it works. I know what you mean.
um, the other thing is like, what we mentioned earlier is the path itself is not going to be always sunshine and rainbows.
Mm,
If it was, the path literally was sunshine and rainbows, no one wouldn't take it. Like, everyone would be on that.
yeah, that's true. That is
Like,
true.
think of that. Like, really think about, like, if there was like just a path that led to just bliss and happiness that was easy, and not easy, but like everyone would take it.
Yeah.
But what is the cause that makes people not want to take it? It's that their
Fear.
idea, yeah, that their idea of what they are has to go away, which to them is death. To the ego structure is death.
Mm,
And
that's the first thing.
everything one experiences, or everything one does, is to avoid that.
Wow, that's powerful, man. Yeah, that's so
What you
true.
what you find when that type of conceptualization goes away is nothing is different. You're fine.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is you're less neurotic, you're less concerned about um your position, yourself.
Yeah, the
You're not
story you
as
tell yourself about who you are.
We love our suffering so much, and we won't let it, like, that's something that I think people don't recognize, is craving and loving we're attached to things that we like and desire. Like, no, we're attached to our suffering.
Hmm.
um
That's the original desire, was to feel, just to feel something. It's almost like our original desire was to just feel. So rather than just feeling nothing at all. And so from that we suffer. And we kill and from we keep building karma. And from that we just keep from our desires, we build karma, we just keep suffering until we realize the path and the way. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and that's why we need teachers, like people that will point out the way, because it's not obvious. If I didn't have teachers, I'd be lost.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I don't actually have any formal teachers. Like I want to find somebody. If there's somebody listening, I want to find. Well, I mean, it's something that I want to find. Like, I don't know if you want to say it a guru, but like somebody that I can meet in real life. I don't actually have any like
if you
real
find that,
teachers.
if you find that person, and you know for some fact that they are actually realized, which I would question very deeply. Most people that say they are probably aren't, and
Yeah.
um, they are likely trying to sell you something or give you some talk about how they believe things are, which is just an expression of their own, I guess, desire to be heard.
Yeah.
Um, but if you do respect that person and let them know, like, um, that you're like humble and like honest, and don't like, also, this is something that is really relevant, is never believe a word they say.
Hmm.
Look for yourself, because
Hmm.
what happens when you find someone that, so this is a really valuable thing that I learned, is something that happens when you meet a realized person is, and be very careful not to trick yourself here, is when you meet the person, the degree of anxious, frustrated, um, over time, like sometimes you, okay, I have to be careful here because there's a lot of ways you can interpret this. Essentially, what will happen is your own process of thinking and your relationship with reality will change and become like, I want to say peaceful.
Yeah. More
Um,
pure.
but sometimes teachers are aggressive and direct. So sometimes teachers will really interrogate you
Hmm.
in a way that's very confrontational. And these are some of the best teachers you could ever find,
Yeah, I think that's
because
good.
they don't give you the bullshit like, oh, let's all love each other and just talk about how, which is like people
Yeah.
want. People want that. Like,
Yeah, because it feels good.
but if you go to like a guy like Peter Ralston, or you look up guys like UG Krishnamurti, um,
They'll give it to you straight.
they, and I don't want to put them in the same boat because they're not in the same boat. But the thing I want to get at is that you ask them a question, um, they will not spend any time wasted on anything other than investigating the direct reality of that in your experience and unveiling, doing what they can to unveil that reality for you so you can see it and leave them alone.
Wow. Yeah, that is true. It's like wow, yeah, because both of those guys, in their own way, they do touch upon that same. It's just like upfrontness. It's just straight spiritual realism in a way. No fluff. No, there's no, like you said, butterflies, roses, and it's. I know what you mean. I've
If you,
recently been watching Peter Ralston from your suggestion, and
yeah, yeah,
he has that vibe.
yeah. He's very direct. He's not the meditation path, but I don't think everyone needs that path. But for a lot of people, I think it's appropriate to have that meditation. I think Peter Ralston is actually an anomaly, and so is UG Krishnamurti, because, well, Peter, he found his enlightenment through contemplation. He basically spent like an entire day trying to get what he was.
Wow,
Like,
one day, that's it.
well, he's like 24 hours in just doing nothing but that. Like,
I'm about to do
but
that. I'm gonna take a day off tomorrow and
but
just
okay,
figure
there
it
was a
out.
lead up. There was a lead up to it, and he was on a retreat setting, in a retreat setting.
Oh, okay.
And so I imagine like the vibe of like what he was doing was influenced by
Yeah.
his decision to like go to drive out to this mountain and like do this like thing. And I remember his story was like, he was like, yeah, the goal was to go to this mountain and get enlightened, and so I went there and I did it. I was like, okay, that's like, it's respectable. his definition of enlightenment. See, this is the thing: is that everyone's definition, everyone will have like crossroads of it. But what I find to be the most relevant thing is just having conversations with people and seeing, like, am I benefiting from this? Is my perspective on life shifting because of how they're discussing things with me? Um, and with Peter, it's clear. Like after I listened to Peter Elson for like the first 2 weeks, I had a breakthrough, like where I think I was meditating and I forgot what the question was, which is funny. But it was something like, who is the one that's thinking, or something like this, or how is this thought made? And like, so this wasn't the question, but it was something to that type of meta analysis. And I recognized it as like a thought or as a memory or, um, and what happens when that occurs is the self structure, in my experience, the self structure had no, the root of the self structure was like thrown away. And so anything that was said, like words or content thoughts, it was like the radio, it's like, which is a different flavor of an experience. And when you can kind of just tune out the radio. And so I just kind of tuned out that, like that
frequency.
stream of thinking. And I was just well, there was the awareness and the experience. So this is the I that I reference here, not the individual, like a specific concept of it. It was just anything I could do, anything. I was just open. It was just open to everything. Was open to I guess it was open, like before, like, so the conceptual framework often will layer things in reality where like maybe you have a task to do, or maybe you have a room to clean, or something that you've been holding back on. All of a sudden you can do everything without any sort of anxiety or any sort of neuroticism around that type of thing, because all that neuroticism was bundled up into the self structure, because there was this whole story of like just pathetic me. Oh, I'm like, I'm anxious to do this because I don't want to, because I'm bored, because I won't like have the time. Time completely goes out the window.
Yeah.
So I don't. And at that point, I was like, oh, Peter's a real one. Like he's actually talking about something other than just nothing.
What did he say again?
Well, he's only talking about nothing, but that's a funny. What did he say?
Yeah. Did you say he said something that enabled you to come to that feeling of just presence, I guess?
I don't remember.
But you were watching a video, or was it something that you were meditating upon?
It was after I watched him, and I considered it on my own. And I think that's one of the keys. Like, it's very rare that you will have a breakthrough by listening to something passively. Actually, I would say that it's not possible unless you're actually actively investigating as one's listening.
Yeah.
So if you're taking, which I assume anyone would be doing if they're listening to this type of thing, so I guess it's possible. So, but no, it was an active looking at things, and I think the biggest thing for people that are getting into this type of thing is to recognize, like, be extremely open to seeing something new, and don't have any expectations on what your capability of seeing things are. Because if you can see like a red cup in front of you, you can see that the self is an illusion. It's just a seeing.
Yes.
And an acceptance of that seeing. If you don't accept it, too bad, you already saw it. You're just going to be deluding yourself from that point forward. And you'll probably, in that a non-acceptance, you'll probably find a lot of pain because you're driving a sinking ship, and it's like there's a hole, and it's just a
Yes.
matter of time before the water reaches a point where the entire ship sinks. And I would say just jump off board. Don't wait for the ship to sink, because that's just drama. Just end it. Just jump off.
Do you think we all know in the back of our heads that the ship is sinking? We all need to jump off?
The ego knows.
Mm.
That's its fear.
Oh, is the ego the ship that's sinking?
The ego's a ship that is, yeah, it's doomed to sink, yeah. Because everyone's gonna die.
Huh.
The second the ego
Yeah.
starts its cruise, it has a it has a date at which it will sink.
Yes.
So I say my thing and is destroy that ship before you have to deal with that pain of involuntarily sinking. And also, if you destroy the ship before you like physically die, like your life will be tremendously enriched
Yes,
with,
right? It seems counterintuitive to someone that doesn't know what you're talking about, that, you know, bringing yourself to experience, I don't know if you want to say experience death, but to really fathom it, contemplate it, be with it for a second, and just actually kind of just let it engulf you for a second and feel what it feels to die. It sounds scary, but it's actually the most liberating thing that you can do for your entire being.
yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, man. I think Shinzen Young, he has this video where he discusses enlightenment, and I think one thing that always struck me was he said, if I interviewed 100 enlightened people, I would say every single one of them, if they were given the opportunity to live one day in the state that they understand of enlightenment, or the state of knowing, versus 100 years without knowing, most of them would choose the one day without question.
Hmm.
Which is just a statement on how limited and just it's not like it's just limited, and it's just a sham.
The
It's
ego?
just this conceptual framework of conceptualizing everything, the ego, the self, the being
Mm,
an individual. It's all a sham,
yeah. That's why
and
they say it's an illusion. It's a hologram. Right? Is that what you're touching upon? All of it, all conceptualization.
well, it is what it is, but it's not you.
Yeah.
Calling it an illusion, I mean, doesn't do anything to what that is. That I guess, yes, in a way, the you is an illusion because it believes it to be something that it's not. But it's still concepts. Like concepts, you could say is an illusion, but they're still like
There.
something.
There's
There's
still something.
something.
Yeah.
They're not what you think they are, but there's something.
Yes, that's what it is. It's not that they don't exist. It's just that they're not what they think they are. They serve a different purpose. And
Yeah.
it's not, and the purpose doesn't really have anything to do with your identity. It's more just like messages, I guess, in a way. I don't even know what is the purpose of a concept for our liberation, to
For
bring
our
us into
liberation,
is it for our liberation? Like, are these concepts just
concepts.
signs? Yeah, symbols for us to realize our true being, to know that we are one with the concepts.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they've evolved as a way in which to navigate our natural environment to
Yes.
better prepare us to survive and reproduce.
Yes.
And having concepts allows us to project into the future and potentially see how certain things would be good to do. Might be good to prepare to get water because there's a future, or it might be bad to um, not do certain activities, or to sleep with the neighbor's daughter, or because he's aggressive, or
Yeah.
and that's it. And then they've gotten to the point where concepts don't serve the same purpose, or at least we've outgrown that
Yeah, we've outgrown
necessity.
concepts. I know what you mean.
We
Yep.
built such a strong survival cocoon that we're not living like the model I appreciate the most is kind of Wilber's spiral dynamics model of development,
Mm-hmm.
where he describes the stages of as consciousness evolves up through very basic levels where we're very instinctual and survival and like sort of tribal almost.
I'm gonna look that one up. What is it called?
Spiral dynamics.
Spiral dynamics. Let's see.
Here, I'll actually. I think there's a.
Wait, you got it?
Okay, I'll tell you which. Do that one on the right with the individual group.
This one?
One right to that. Yeah,
Can we get the whole thing?
I think you gotta
Oh, I don't have
go back, and then
Oh,
left,
no.
right click on a new tab. Image. Open image in new tab.
Open image, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get it. There we go.
And this is actually, it would take some, essentially the overview is like, it would take some time to go over, but essentially um, the bottom left describes the axes of development one goes through as they're evolving in consciousness, or the different axes of development that evolve independently of one another. So everyone has different axes that they can evolve with. Like, so someone's, let's see, cognitive development will progress independently with their spiritual development.
I see. Yeah.
And so that's an important key, because oftentimes people imagine if their spiritual axis is developed to the peak, somehow their cognitive or even emotional or moral axis will develop simultaneously, but that's not true. So I guess the most important ones of these colors that might be worth touching on right now would be the orange, green, yellow, and blue, or turquoise. The ones below that are just kind of, it would take some time to get into, actually. Essentially, the beige at the very bottom is like you're operating at the level of ape. You're like a child. You're not even a child. You're like a baby. You're just responding to stimulus, like kind of like bacteria.
This is
Like,
at the instinctive self?
Yeah, like if you look at a baby, you poke the baby, it can kind of like move away from you and cry, but other than that, it doesn't have that much.
Yes.
Purple is, you sort of have this, you've been able to link cause and effect. You can now see the link between two things. One thing leads to this, and that's sort of a magical type of belief system. So if I rub sticks together, it creates heat. And so it's like, oh, cool, magic. Or thinking like this is also, it's also interesting because a lot of these tribes that are in the States, they use like magical things, like they believe in magical things. And honestly, some of them, I believe, have tapped into like psychic powers, because they just see links between things. Like if I like, use my mind power to like really influence something might happen. And so they kind of just like, that's how witchcraft and stuff started. It starts in purple.
That's interesting.
Whether witchcraft is real, often we know the placebo is real. Like you can die from getting a spell casted on you if you believe it.
That's actually happened?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah, power of belief.
That it doesn't happen a lot, but it's been documented as like a thing. Like I remember in Joe Dispenza's book, The Placebo Effect, or something like that. You are the placebo. He cited some people who they had spells casted on them by witch doctors,
Hmm.
and essentially like they believed it, and so they went to the doctor, and they actually got super sick, and the doctor's like, this is not real, but I have to show this person like that it's real. And so one doctor, he took the patient in and he bought a frog. I don't know how his hospital gave him like permission to do this, but like he bought a frog or a serpent or something, and he gave the guy like some throw up liquid. I don't know what that's called. And he gave the guy the throw up liquid, and he threw up and into his bucket, and he showed the guy a snake. He's like, "Oh, I got the snake out of you. This is what the witch doctor put in you, but now it's gone. So now you're healthy." And the guy's like, "Oh, great." And the guy just recovered.
Wow.
Um,
That just goes to show we don't know what's going on up here. There's a lot
no,
going
not
on
at
that we
all.
don't know. That's
Um,
craziness.
but moving up through the spiral essentially just gets to eventually where we're at currently, which is orange and green.
Yeah, I'll go back to that. Hold on.
It's actually very interesting. I think it'd be worth devoting an entire separate conversation to, actually.
I think so, because it seems very intensive in what it is, and it seems like we
Like,
can have a
if
whole
I were to
3-hour conversation on it.
if I were to get into it now, it would be slightly just. It wouldn't be worth the time. It would just be kind of rushed and
I
not
get the
incomplete.
concept though. It just seems to be just different levels of consciousness, and from these different levels, as we ascend in a way, it seems, or at least spiral up, we gain, I don't know, like different insights. Is it just like a different way of living, a different existence?
It's recognizing higher and higher degrees of truth in with respect to our position with ourselves. Um,
Okay.
the radical phase shift essentially, and that right above green essentially indicates that one has began to transcend their own particular views and opinions and are no longer identified with those structures in the mind. Before then, someone's independent perspective on themselves is intrinsically interwoven with their views and opinions. So if you're to attack someone's opinions and views, they'll perceive that as an attack on themselves.
Oh.
Below that radical phase shift, you talk to someone and you threaten their ideas, they will personally feel their heart will start to race, their mind will start to spin. They'll go into what's called like high beta with the pattern of their brain harmonic, or I think it's like if you put them in an EEG, like their brain starts to go like it starts to rapid fire, so they can't actually think
Hmm.
like clearly because they are under threat. The
Wow.
brain only goes into that state when someone feels under threat and they have to look, at a million different
Yeah.
solutions simultaneously. So after that radical phase shift, it's sort of like this easy, like, oh, I'm not my opinions. Those can be attacked and dismantled, but I can be fine.
Mm,
That's an integral self.
that's
Holistic
powerful.
self includes even more. Um, it transcends even more than that.
Yeah.
So,
I
and
always
in,
see that and no matter what model it is, man, it seems to be the first step is always real. It's coming to a sense of awareness that you're not your thoughts, you're not your being. That's the first step, because once you come to that, and then you got to do the work and walk the path and continually dwell in that, it seems. But for everything in all practices that I've seemed to have explored in other models like this, seems to be a sense of it starts with realizing that there is no self. Kind of like
it's
switching
a,
up your sense of identification. What were you saying?
yeah, it's an insight
Yeah.
into one's own insubstantial nature. One can get to the intellectual fantasizing of it through thinking about it, but when one sees directly, like, and I think it's just a matter of not looking carefully enough at one's own internal state
Yeah.
and how many people actually sit down for. I would say like you might. There's no hard and fast rule, but I would say give yourself at least 30 hours continuous, like within like a month or something, where you can really look into yourself
Yeah.
and start to familiarize yourself with those processes. Because until you start like actually doing that, your entire life has just kind of been assumption on assumption on assumption on belief on belief on belief with no analysis at all, no looking at how things work. And so there's just a mountain of belief, and then there's this little you here that's like built on this whole just bullshit, 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 belief, 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 belief. And then you're like, you ask someone about these things and they're like, they might take off that very top layer and they'd be like, yeah, but there's still like this stuff. And it's like, no, you need to get all the way to where that belief originally started. And
Yeah.
that belief originally starts at this clinging identification with the I thought.
Hmm.
Uh, but to get to that point, man, you got to go through some, just looking at things.
Self-inquiry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be over lifetimes. It is over lifetimes.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, if you want to believe it, I don't think it's harmful. But the reality is the experience we're having is all that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
Like my prioritization, like the thing I most think is of utility is to completely withdraw yourself from all belief systems. You can have belief systems, you can select belief systems to build hypotheses from, but everything you need for your own awakening is here already. There
Yeah,
is no
exactly.
more. You don't have to believe anything. There's no, what you should believe, if anything, is that you have everything you need
Yeah.
and some faith in the process as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, you can, if believing in lifetimes helps you with that, go for it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's real. I'm not saying it's false. It's just,
It doesn't really
it's,
matter, to be honest. I
it's
just
a,
like these ideas and like these concepts, just like you said, we're playing a game. Like ultimately, I also hold the belief that there is no belief to be had. I just like these kind of conversations. I just kind of like to have. It is for fun. It is kind of a game, and I think for anybody listening, it is something that has to be experienced yourself. These words through a microphone and into your headphones are only going to do so much. It is really only something that you come to by as simply as, yes, just maybe taking 30 hours a month or just starting simply 5 to 10 minutes, just start somewhere. But it starts with putting the phone down, shutting off the computer, maybe even shutting off this podcast. Just shut it all down and just find a quiet place and really just dive deep into who you are, reflect on who you are, see what comes up, and just let it pass. Just kind of, who's the one witnessing the thoughts? Just kind of get into that position where you're just simply being for a second. Because I think about it, man. We just have a problem with being, it seems. Our society or everybody just seems to not know how to just simply just be. We always have to be doing something. The mind just clings to the idea of activity and having to do something. But really, when it comes down to it, we never have anything to do at all. Like, we don't have to do anything. There's nobody telling us to do anything other than our need to survive and reproduce, essentially.
yeah.
But to just be.
One caution I have is, I think people can often begin a practice with so little guidance that one, they start and they find themselves in territory that is unfamiliar and they don't know what
Mm,
to do and they actually end up harming themselves, which has happened. Like some people will decide to go on like 10-hour self retreat or something and they'll consider that to be like a good thing, and then the little guidance that they have will lead potentially to them destabilizing themselves to the point of um, harm, like
yeah.
serious damage. The other potential would be with no guidance, one would play a conceptual game eternally.
Mm,
So you can meditate for
hmm,
60 years and
And
play
then,
that game.
yeah,
Um,
I'm meditating. I'm doing the right thing, right?
the
That conceptual game of like, yes, this is the right thing for me, Gary Haskins. This is
yeah,
I'm doing. Yeah, it's not about that either.
the role of the teacher plays a integral part in one's awakening process because they point out how much garbage and nonsense there really truly is, and it's um, quite a lot that we
Yeah,
can't see, even if we have exceptional IQ. If you have exceptional intelligence, the entire weight of that intelligence is being used to perpetuate your conceptual self.
hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's a more challenging thing when you're an intelligent being and you've come to the conclusion that you're a self. To deconstruct that, oh man,
Yeah.
the intelligent system is good. It's smart. So if you're dumb, you're probably going to find it a little bit easier to, because you just have awareness is what is necessary for these type of recognitions. If you have awareness, you're in luck. All you got to do is point that awareness in the right areas
Yeah.
and reflect on that, and boom, you see things. See how this is insubstantial or unsatisfactory or not so.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're really smart, I caution you especially to go off in your own meditation practice. Find a guy that's also, find a man or woman who knows what they're doing, maybe a little bit, guide you a little bit. Like that was one of my issues, like um, hyper intellectual since I was super young. Um, very philosophically oriented and acute with how I was able to postulate and present arguments and these types of things. Lots of fun for me. I really enjoy that type of thing. When it comes to meditation, um, deconstructing yourself, it's so hard.
Yeah.
So much, just maniacal, like absolutely ingenious, like the layers on layers, the cycles, this the paradoxes,
Mm-hmm.
the wires crossing just and crossing in just specific ways just to sustain themselves. Absolutely amazing. And so um without teachers, I don't know. I don't know. If I didn't go crazy, I probably would just be lost.
Mm.
So
And that's probably a reality, unfortunately, for many people right now.
yeah, I talked to a lot of I've talked to a lot of guys that are very intellectual, and sometimes they'll get into conversations where like they'll be talking to someone where it's like they're saying like talking about some spiritual idea, and I remember there was a specific instance where this I don't want to get too much into this, but essentially it's just I notice how well structured a person's concept of themselves is and how difficult it will be for them just based off of how well they are at philosophy.
Wow.
Like, like I'll see someone that's super good at philosophy and I'll know like this will be a hard process for them.
Hmm. Because
Uh,
making the constant conceptualization even more dense with the philosophy, right? It's just like
it'll
more
be very
and more.
hard. Yeah.
It's just conditioning, essentially. You have to decondition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Dehabitualization,
That's a better word.
deconditioning. Yeah. Because it's a habit that it's everything we're talking about is a habit. We're habitualized to and condition. Yeah. It's either word. It's whatever. Yeah. And this is why I think a lot of smart people just get depressed because people like that are
Yeah.
hyper intelligent, they get depressed because when depression, this is the way I see it is around that depression, there's an identity, a story, a narrative,
Yeah.
and that narrative's last thing it would last thing it wants is to die, and so that narrative perpetuates itself, utilizing the individual's intelligence against that person.
Wow.
And so once that happens, everything in that person's perception and reality is used as ammunition and resources towards the sustaining of the structure of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of a self, it's just like, it's really intense. Like,
Yeah, it's just like a cycle. It just keeps feeding into itself.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's common, it's biased towards depression because of society. Like,
What do you mean by that?
like people are biased towards depression because our society is sick. And that's
Oh
what they
yeah,
have as a anchor or a condition
yeah,
that
right.
in which they've fruitioned, yeah, from childhood.
Yes, it's almost like it's okay in our society to it's like recognizing that there is something wrong and like being okay with it. Like, yes, you are depressed. Like, okay, yeah, you are like that. It's almost like, yeah, it's okay that you're depressed, which it is okay if you are depressed. But it's actually like there is a way to see beyond it. Is that what you're saying? Like the almost like normalization of it is kind of feeds into it even more too. Like our society doesn't help with depression, is what you're saying.
Well, no, obviously not. But um, it's that our society, when I say it's sick, it's that there's a lot of things. Primarily the normalization of psychological disorder. The I mean, the core of it is the glorification of the self to the point of like the core nature of this issue is that one identifies with concepts, period.
Yes.
And not even psychotherapy addresses that. They
Hmm.
address the person at a conceptual level. No psychotherapist, no licensed psychotherapist, there are some, but most will never say to the individual or suggest the self is the problem. They might say your story is the problem. They might say the way you're relating to your narrative isn't appropriate, but they may not say your narrative entirely is a fantasy.
Hmm.
Like, it's just
Imagine that.
funny. Yeah, they just come out and they're just like Buddha. This is not
Yeah.
this doesn't happen. Even the psychotherapist is identified with some impermanent psychological conceptual structure that's causing them pain, suffering.
Do you see us in the future being more on that paradigm of just no self? Like essentially we all know, because I know what you're saying when you say that, but not everybody would know what you're saying because I've kind of experienced it, or at least I've kind of caught glimpses of it in certain instances. But to somebody that's never really caught a glimpse of what that means, like what is it going to take for us to all be on that same page? Or is that not even important if we're all on the same page? Is that does that not even
It's
matter?
not it's not my it's not I don't know. I think the I don't know. I think it's really like it's hard enough to wake up myself.
Yeah.
What other people are doing, I cannot wake anyone up. Like if they're not interested, it's the momentum and the mass of the cumulative psyche of society is tremendous. Um, and I don't know if that's going to resolve itself before it self deflates or it self annihilates, is what I mean.
Hmm.
Um, will if I'm not gonna say either it will annihilate or it won't, but I just would say that's the general direction things seem to be headed.
Annihilation.
Well, yes, but also towards the higher awakening. Like more people are waking up now in history than I think ever had in
Oh
the entire.
yeah, every single day. Yeah. Like
So
think of all like that realization that you've had during meditating, how many other people are also going through something like that.
yeah, but it's also not a lot. It's
Yeah,
also not a
right.
lot.
It's more
Like
than ever, but it's also not a lot.
like I've personally never met anyone in I've personally met maybe okay, like three people like that like in my IRL life, I met a lot of people online just because it's easier to meet such a niche like people that are interested in this
Yeah,
online.
definitely.
Like, but if I meet someone that's into this type of thing, it's usually like it's like a pet hobby, which is fine. I don't think anything is wrong with just not going like full balls to the wall, Buddha mode, go 100 hours a week, just kill it. I don't think that's necessary until it is.
Mm-hmm.
Until you're so driven and realize. I think it, yeah. Um, but it's just I haven't met. It's not that common yet.
No.
Um,
And how do you recognize it? What do you think are characteristics of somebody that knows? You know they know.
like it's
You just know, right? It's like if you know, you know. Real recognize real, right?
the degree of neuroticism like is so little in
Yeah.
someone who's understood their nature. Like there is almost no self-recrimination. There is almost no you can just see no like with oftentimes people you can notice like fragmentation of the personality.
Mm.
Whereas in someone who's moving towards awakeness or awake or is awakened, the fragmentation is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Like
I know what you mean.
they're just not. I think the hallmark though is um, they tend to have extremely meaningful communications. Like what they say is of importance to to the present.
Mm.
Like what's the thing that can be said in this moment that will be of best service to the person I'm talking to for their own awakening, um,
That's
or
powerful.
what will just be relevant right here, right now, without like. And sometimes it's talking about the sports or weather with someone. If they're at if they're at that point, that's fine.
Yeah. That's true. It's not about the subject. I think it's just more about the presence. Like just knowing what's right for that. Like, yeah, I know what you mean, man.
Because they're not anywhere else other than with you.
Mm.
If they're actually there, and they'll see you as
Mm.
opposed, they'll see you, and most people won't see you. They'll see a framework or or a projection of their own mind onto you.
Yeah, that's good. And then you'll see them because of that. And it's just the cycle of recognition, I guess, and just I don't know, find the others type of thing. Like you just kind of know.
Yeah.
See, are we all gonna be on that wavelength? Like if you know type thing? I don't know. I don't think
No,
so.
no. I don't think it's sort of like something like no, not that. I wouldn't expect it. I think I've had to come to this point where like I had this idea of like I want to wake up all my friends, I want to wake up my family, but I myself like was still like working on my own thing, and I had been doing it for like a common hundreds of hours at that point, and
Hmm.
like I'm like if I haven't even like done it for me, why would I try to do it for someone that's not even naturally interested in this?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's foolish. It's just
Because then you're just taking away from your own practice.
it's like a childlike foolishness.
Hmm.
It's well-meaning,
Yeah.
um, and
It's naive.
it's just yeah, it's a naive thing.
I know I was like that. I used to like once I came to certain realizations, I try to like talk to my anybody in my life around it, and I realized like, wait, hold on a second. They didn't just do what I just did to get to that.
Yeah,
And it is tough to because it's like because it is a good feeling to come depending on whatever the insight or revelation is. It brings good feelings and just hope and certain kind of peace and optimism, right? And that's something that we all want to spread. We want to be like Jesus, you all just want to spread the love to everybody, but words won't just do justice. Like it's that simple. Like there's nothing that I can say to you that will make you come to that realization. There's no which way. I can just point the way. There's just the certain words that I can get you to kind of show you
Yeah.
a certain way that maybe it worked for me, and maybe you can take something from that, or not even me, from whoever it is, and then you can experiment and do your own. It's like a science, like Buddhism and whatever. The self-realization is like a science. Find out what works for you based upon other people. This is my science, at least. It's like I take from a lot of different people, and I take what I like, and if it works for me, I'll keep it in my practice, and if it doesn't work, I don't take it. But
Yeah.
I think if everybody adopts that, it's kind of like an individual self-realization path based upon the teachers, the ones that have done it before us. Yeah, that's the path. It's all your own. It's all your own.
Yeah. I think that degree of self reliance will serve you very well.
Yeah.
The intuition. One of the main things, one of my initial non real teachers, or not personal teachers, Tanisro Bhikkhu, would always mention from his teacher was ingenuity is one of the most helpful qualities to have cultivated, because you're not going to get necessarily just awakened by doing one thing. You have to sort of learn to have an ingenious mind, or have a understanding of resources and different teachings, and where they're applicable and where they're not applicable, and being able to know when to use a hammer and when to use a wrench, and when to use a saw, and when to use this teaching, when to use the teachings of forgiveness and love, when to use the teachings of aggression and power.
Yeah.
And there is a place for both. You can use one you could use like a hammer for everything, and I guess maybe it could work in some situations, but in all likelihood, it's just better you gain a self-trust in yourself as an artisan of the mind, and get very familiar with how things work with the workshop that you find yourself in. Know where all the tools are, know what the tendencies are, and know what teachings resonate with you specifically.
Yes.
Because not every teaching will resonate with you. And if you pick a teaching that's wrong for you and you go 5,000 hours in it, you might have just wasted a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly, man. For you, I'll explain my viewpoint first. So for something that resonates with me, it's like a certain unspoken, almost feeling, like intuition that I get, and it's only from certain teachers. Like I watch a lot of people, and we'll say 9 out of 10 teachers, maybe 2 of them resonate with me, where like their teachings are like, I'm like, yes, that means something. And it's something like a feeling that I can get when I'm talking about also watching videos or like reading quotes or whatever. There's certain kind of energy to a person's words and how they say it. Like it's like authenticity, where I know that they're telling the truth. And it's like an unspeakable, unbreakable thing that I can kind of get from certain people. I'm like, yeah, they kind of know about what's going on a little bit. I don't know what it is though. It's just like I said, it's just some kind of something that resonates in me. So is it the
And
same with you? That resonates with you? Is there certain teachings that like you just feel to know that that's the truth? Where you just kind of like something in your being tells you like that's the way?
I think so. But I don't rely on that. I rely on the knowing that that if a teaching is really, really powerful, it will present to me irrefutable truth into my own reality. And I won't have to check with anybody else that what they're pointing out instructions did to me. Sort of like when I was reading Eckhart Tolle, reading, you can read his books and believe what he says or not believe what he says, But if you experience what he says, what doubt do you have left? I was reading once, debating him, and it hit me what he was what he was talking about, not as like a, oh wow, the present moment is all there is. Cool, I'm gonna go write a book on that. It was more like thoughts gone, future past collapse into this present moment. Not like any crazy, like it was just, oh, the future thoughts and the past thoughts are now.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened from that recognition revealed to me something I had never seen before. And the reason I knew I never had seen it before is because it just never dawned on me to see this reality in that way, or to recognize the real nature of how things come up. Like there is no such thing as a future or a past. And the way he said it, if I didn't have that experience, wouldn't really mean too much. Though, if it does mean something to you intellectually, that's still important. But when I knew Eckhart was a good teacher, wasn't that he resonated with me, but was when that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like his teachings spoke for themselves as a living experience within me. And that itself is the true indication of whether or not a teacher is worth their weight in salt. Like anything less than that, I would consider, I wouldn't take it tremendously seriously. But if you have that penetration into an direct understanding, then you can know this person just transmitted a living teaching.
Mm.
These teachings aren't meant to be dead. They're meant to be lived.
Oh, that's good. They're meant to be passed on and transmitted, right?
Yeah, like the teaching that Eckhart passed wasn't anything in the book. It had nothing to do with the words. And you could say it does have something to do with the words, but what the real teaching that he was trying to present, non-conceptual, it was my felt experience in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could carry that teaching with me after throwing the book away and burning it. Like
Yes.
that teaching is now here. That specific state left, but that teaching persisted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how real teachings get passed on, not through any type of like, so if I just read that book and I kind of like learned about it intellectually, like this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, could I transmit that to another person? Probably, I would say no. But if I'm if I'm just like living in the moment and
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching someone going through their mind mental patterns, past, present, I will know exactly like how to like, I'll see exactly what they're doing, how they're getting stuck around, and I can sort of say like, okay, look at this, or look at this, because I'll know from my own felt experience, like I went through that, and there's something about understanding these types of things that lets you see it in others. And you don't want to just go pointing this out in others either. You want it to be sort of a context in which that's sort of a understood upon framework, because
Yeah.
people often get really defensive or aren't ready for the teachings or just are unwilling to appreciate what you're telling them. Sort of like
Yes.
throwing pearls to swine or pigs. What's that scripture?
What's that?
The scripture of throwing pearls to pigs. Something in the Bible. Not call
Yeah.
I'm not
I get it though.
calling people pigs, but don't give off really valuable things if someone's not gonna take it seriously.
Yeah, you ungrateful swine. You don't take my teaching seriously. It is true though. I mean, I understand. It's just because it's direct experience. Words never do justice. They can only do justice if it's like what comes first, the concept and then putting it into practice and then the realization, or the practice and then maybe the concept can get you there and then the realization? The chicken or the egg? Like, what would you say? For me personally, it's concept. I think I learn about something and then I practice it, or I try to feel it myself, or try to, like, dive into whatever that is, and then see if it works. If it doesn't work, move on to something else. And then if it works, then yeah, then I have that transmission of energy like we were talking about before. And it is
Not
interesting that
sure.
it seems like a transmission of energy that we get. It seems like, and once you get that energy, like once you're able to flip that switch in your head, you're able to kind of transmit that to others. But like you said, it goes beyond information. It goes beyond just the simple regurgitation of data and information. It goes, like, if you were to read, and that's why the Bible and holy books are so lost, because it's just they're stuck on the concept of what these things are. They're stuck on just the idea and the base level stories of what these ideas and concepts are in there. But behind that is the mysticism that tells us the story of who we are. That's a whole other story. But what I'm saying is it's the same thing with kind of essentially what we're talking about right now, is that you're only going to get it if you get it yourself. That's really it. It's that simple. You only get it if it resonates within your being. And yeah, it's all just symbols, and using these symbols to ascend. Like, we have to realize and don't identify with those symbols, and don't cling to any of these symbols. Yeah, and just use it to come to that realization, man, of all is one and one is all. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it is a transmission of something, but the truth is already true. And what's not, I don't consider it to be that type of thing. It's more just noticing what's already true here.
Yeah.
There's no belief systems. There's no um, stretching of the imagination. It's just noticing that there's some things that are already the case, and they're just pointing out that to you. They're not giving you anything that wasn't already there.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally not like, see, that's why transmission is like a misnomer, is like they're not sharing anything from them to you. It's already inherent in your experience. You've just overlooked and not seen that. So when you see it, then you're like, oh wow, that is true. That's something I can't deny.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you got to be careful with how one comes to that conclusion, because the ego structure can often select what it likes and say very aggressively and assertively that this is real. But in reality, it may just be a hope or a sensation in the body, or a feeling like, oh, I sense I'm here. I sense I'm real. Like, that sense has got, where has that sense gotten you? Absolutely nothing. It's gotten you
Suffering.
tons of suffering. So we have to look more carefully, trust some things that transcend and even intuition, and even like even a feeling of, I like this guru. You'll know if the guru is real eventually. The danger is if they're not real, you might just be put into a deeper ego structure that is delusional,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
as opposed to pulled out of your ego structure. So there's a knowing when you're pulled out of the ego structure and looking back, sort of. This is kind of a weird way to talk about it, because looking back implies there's an object, a subject. But anyway, when you're actually pulled out of this, it's different than getting sucked into a contracted ego form. Completely different. And when you can tell that difference, you're a lot safer as a seeker. But if you don't know that difference yet, if you're just a novice or a beginner, you don't know the difference between being in a cult, like a cultish mind frame where you're just hyper clinging to a belief system, Won't name any names here, but I'm sure we know what some of these institutions are that do this.
Yes, you can take a guess.
Um, um, once you know that difference between those two types of knowing, um, getting like trapped back in that little identity where you could be susceptible to joining a cult or something becomes a lot less likely.
Hmm.
And having faith or having faith in belief falls away. Like it just becomes kind of like, why would I believe something that hasn't been directly shown to me? There is
Yeah.
no point in doing that. If you haven't seen reincarnation for yourself, if you don't understand it, if you don't understand karma, if you don't understand certain things without having seen it directly for yourself, the point of believing it is only worth as much as um, the value it's giving you. Like,
Yeah.
that's a really weird way to say that.
Yeah,
Um,
because even value means like you're getting something. Like it's like a
I guess
exchange.
what I mean is if that belief is making you, like the consequences of that belief, if it makes you feel happier, that's the value of that belief. But
Hmm.
beyond that, there is, that's a really weird way I said that.
I know what
But
you mean though.
I think I get it. I think you get it what I mean.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is like, use beliefs carefully. Use beliefs as a means towards understanding. Don't use beliefs as a crutch.
Hmm.
So in my experience, using the belief of reincarnation serves a utility. It serves the utility of driving a force of investigation more deeply into a potential reality. Um, and also, if I am to be reborn, that's a something that I should probably be aware of, or I should probably how do I say this? It's a possibility that I'm unwilling to disregard,
Yeah. Hmm.
essentially.
Yeah, it's definitely always in the back of my head.
If that exists and there is the likelihood, like if I die, I can just be arbitrarily put in a different circumstance with no like just like appearing somewhere,
Yeah.
that's not okay.
Yeah, that's like, all right, well, if that actually is true, if it
So
actually is true, yes, it's like, wait a second.
this is where beliefs are tactful, is at the point of death, we can't have ideas about what happens, but we can have beliefs that orient us to live a life that you could say hedges oneself towards the best likely outcome or the most reasonable um, type of way to move forward with one's life and how they live. Believing in this type of thing, if it causes you, like say you believe in annihilationism, where you believe the soul and the mind and everything, all experience, everything completely erased, nothingness. Um, Still just a belief, you know. But what are the consequences of that belief? Look at them carefully.
Mm,
Is it worth believing? Right? Is it worth believing? Are the consequences the value of that belief helping you?
hmm.
Whereas if you believe in reincarnation, some people believe reincarnation in a different way, where it's actually damaging, where they actually sort of set back and they're like, oh, I'm going to be reborn anyway, so I don't really have to worry. No, that's not the way I look at this. There is a danger. The danger is continuous rebirth, continuous suffering,
Yeah.
continuous suffering with no control. Um, and if you believe in reincarnation, you begin to take the actions that you take more seriously because you understand your actions have consequences
Hmm.
that reverberate beyond even this specific life,
Mm,
um, potentially could. And so, with that, not only does that help you in this life, because we can see that our actions do actually have consequences. So, in that sense, the many lives we have in one life are affected. I like to see each day as a new life. sort
Mhm.
of what I like to think about it, how I like to think about it. Um, the actions I do today will affect the ones tomorrow. So the belief serves a utility, but beyond that, it don't make it into anything else.
Hmm. It's just
It
another
means
tool.
it means nothing other than it's serving a purpose in my brain.
Mm.
It's just, it's like it's like, do I pick what brand of hammer do I get? Do I get, like, how do I know which one is the best or which one's the right one? It's like, well, what purpose does it serve?
Yes.
Does it
Yeah.
get the nail in like really good, or does it have the thing that can like pull it out? Does it?
Hmm.
And you're not your beliefs. If your beliefs get attacked, okay, that's all. Then if you're shown wrong, then that's okay, because that's your belief was wrong, and that's good for you, because now you know the truth, and that's always the best situation. Living in a lie will just cause extraordinary suffering.
Yes.
So
And that's how we got to where we are.
yeah, so that's how I see it.
Yeah. Reincarnation kind of gives context to, it's like, yeah, once you do come to the realization that we are not these bodies, we are not of this meat suit, then reincarnation makes a little more sense. It makes a little more, it puts a little more perspective into the process of this crazy universe that we were born into, to see that like it is because we're reaping our karma, it seems to be over multiple lifetimes. And that only makes sense in a certain framework of mind, in a certain, in a certain kind of mindset. And it can serve you. Yeah, it can be a good tool. Um, but yeah, if you get hung up on that a little too much, it's not a good tool. I know what you mean. It's definitely beliefs are just another tool in the toolbox, and it's the same thing.
Yeah,
Beliefs, psychedelics, meditation practices, yoga, whatever it is, it just has to serve, right? As long
yeah.
as it serves you. And
I won't.
essentially, what were you saying? Go ahead.
I was to say, like, I won't get in a debate about this with anyone.
Oh yes.
It's not about that.
Yes, it's about essentially, it's just if it makes you happier, if it brings you to some kind of, I don't know, would you say it is, if it kind of makes you feel good, then that's kind of what you should go toward, what you should kind of orientate yourself toward, whether it's a practice, a belief, a teacher, um,
No, no,
whatever
no.
it is.
That's just sensual pleasure, which leads nowhere.
Well, what if
It's
not sensual pleasure though, like a different kind of,
like,
it's not even feeling good. It was a wrong choice of words. It was more so just
okay,
like,
fair.
it was like a more so of it's like that knowing of just something is serving you, like that purposeful feeling of growth, I guess. There's something there, like there's something that's that resonating in your being. I don't know what it is. I don't know how else to describe it. Like when you know that like the tool, like when that hammer is
Mm.
when that tool is being used to build your house greater or build the temple,
I
like
don't I don't usually I know what you mean. And maybe initially, but that feeling, I don't need to trust it. It doesn't hold that much value, in that it's a like, if it's something that, like, I can identify what service a belief has without needing to feel like it's true. Like, if I feel like it's true, um, and I just select it because of that, that's
yeah,
not serving a purpose other than, like, me just wanting to satisfy a like a sensual type of gratification
yeah.
almost.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I mean, if you look carefully, like, what is the feeling of wanting to do something particularly without knowing what it is that's making you do it? It's like, it's a type of craving, and often it can
Mm-hmm.
lead to good things, and often it can lead to bad things. I think there is an internal compass, an intuitional compass, that is extremely intelligent, uses much more intelligence than we can consciously use. I
Yeah.
consider that like a subconscious. Like the subconscious is always connected to the gut and always connected to the heart. And so what it determines to do will often present itself as this mushy feeling without a real conscious sort of understanding of what it is. And if it's true, I investigate that whether or not that's pointing towards something that can be understood. If not, I won't necessarily make a belief of it, but I may just do something because that's a system that I think can be trusted within reasonable confines of day-to-day life.
Hmm.
But when it comes to investigating truth, which is what I'm interested in, um, it doesn't really have a place. Like when it has a place, but it's not the this is what I wanted to say. It's not the determining factor.
Hmm.
It's not where my understanding ends.
Yes.
It's where my understanding begins. My investigation begins at that feeling. But my investigation will end upon my insight into whatever that feeling is trying to get me to see.
I
If
know
that
what you
makes
mean.
sense.
It definitely makes sense. Once you learn the
It's like
lesson,
it'll get me to the door,
yes. But you have to open the door
but I have
yourself.
to walk through it. Yeah.
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 Hmm. That's good, man. How did
But
you? All
often
right. So
I think,
go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, yeah, the last thing I was going to say is often I think people stop at that feeling.
Yeah.
That's the,
Yeah.
that feeling to them is their reason to believe something, not their reason to investigate something.
Hmm. Because it feels
And
good.
yeah, something like that. So what were you going to say?
How did you? What is your story, man? Like, I don't. What? How did you come to be who you are, which is nobody? But how did you come to these insights? What is your practice? What do you? How did you start off on the path and this journey of I guess you could say enlightenment. Like, where did this all come from? Because I'm always interested in people's own practice. Because if it is a subjective truth that we all have to come to, my interest is in how you came to these or how you're coming. Like, what are you doing and where have you been?
Mm. Yeah. I always, with reference to my own development, I always just uh, very much just consider me as no different than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my insights and understandings, if they're if any value, that will present itself to somebody. And this, yeah, that's sort of my own relationship with how I discuss where I'm at, because I think I can always learn more from that kind of openness. But my story starts when uh, I don't know when it started.
Could have
Coming
been
into
multiple lifetimes ago.
Yeah, I crashed into this life with like a weird like I felt so like old, like
Mm-hmm.
it just it's not old, but it is old. It's like curious, not satisfied with anything,
Yeah.
which led to a tremendous amount of pain and suffering because everything I was given in life, comfort, food, women, love, it's all like, but this isn't it.
Yeah.
Like this is not like the end. This is the idea that our society is giving me, but it's so unsatisfying. I just inherently understand that it's so empty.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was really young, I didn't understand why I felt this way. Um, I guess I don't know like where to even start with my story. It's kind of like the specifics don't really, I don't know if they're really relevant. Um, I guess the most relevant thing is that there's always been an incessant desire to investigate my own reality for the sake of investigation and for the sake of truth, nothing else.
Hmm.
Because that's that feeling I have, where in my own heart, I understand there shouldn't be this misguided type of understanding of myself.
Hmm.
Like, there shouldn't be this constant battle of fighting with reality or misunderstanding my position in reality. And I had like no mentors ever really growing up. And it's weird. I always felt like when I was young, I should have had this like guru or something. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like I missed someone. I've been missing somebody to help guide me. And so I've had to learn everything on my own by myself, in the West, which is like sometimes I'll talk to people in like Eastern culture and they'll be like, dude, what, how does it even like, how do you even like find these teachings? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know because there's so many areas to get lost in. Um, I guess one of the biggest openings for me was when I initially read Eckhart Tolle. I think that was the first opening. I think it's the first opening for a lot of people, which is actually pretty cool what he's
Was it a
doing.
specific book?
Yeah, it's book part now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's helped a lot of people.
um, it's a long story. I think we should get into it in the next talk.
Yeah, I feel like that's okay. I totally understand. I'm just like, I'm curious because if it is, that's kind of my goal with this whole thing too, is like learning everybody's own way to get to that subjective truth that we talk about. Because everybody has their own story and way they get there or way they're getting there. And it just interests me. You know, it's cool to know that we're all on our own journey, on our own path in this crazy thing we call life. And yeah, and it's not, there's not a lot of other people out there like us that are on the same wavelength. So it's cool to be able to share our own insights and, you know, ways of going about it. And in the 21st century, it's a whole new way to go about it, I think. Like
Yeah.
in with the advent of the internet and technology like this, and just everything that comes out new every day, it's just a new way to explore our own being. And yeah, it's cool. What a time to be alive. What a time to be in this incarnation. This is the time of seems to be a awakening. This is the time of unveiling, it seems. I think that's what apocalypse means. Isn't it like unveiling in Greek or Latin or something like that? It's something
No
like that. But
idea. Yeah.
I think it is something like that, and that's what we're coming to thanks to the internet. I mean, the pros and cons to the internet, but like thanks to the internet, we can have this conversation, and other people can hear us have this, and it's just like this. We're falling into a snowball effect of ideally realizing our own true being collectively. It's like it's funny, right? We're all coming to this. Well, ideally, we all need to come to this. It's an objective truth that we all reach subjectively. It's like it's a truth that we all have to come to on our own terms, in our own being, in our own time.
You
But
won't come to it on your own terms.
would you say you won't?
Yeah. It'll be outside of the context of your terms because, not to cut you off, but
No, that's fine.
one of the things that one of my good friends always mentions is no one gets enlightened on their own terms.
Hmm.
It's not something that will happen to the person. Like, their terms are thrown up.
It goes beyond the terms.
You could say that.
Hmm.
Um, any expectation terms one's own approach um, becomes the problem at some point.
Hmm.
The very search itself will eventually become the issue necessarily.
You think it's when we start to cling to the search itself?
Yeah.
Damn.
And letting that go and moving forward even past that. I don't know. Everyone will see that see that at some point. And it's not to say to let go of the search right off the bat just from hearing it. It's more of just a subtle suggestion to keep in mind.
Yes.
That what your expectations are. No, there's not. That's not it. And it won't ever be that.
Yes.
Ever. Even the expectation of, oh, I'll let go of everything and become nothing. It's not that.
Yes, because once you even say that and conceptualize that,
it's not that I'll become one. No, it's not that.
Yeah.
Or I'll become everything, or I'll die. No, this is still playing a game.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So our mind plays games. It's just playing the game, man. I don't think it's that we ever stop playing the game. It's just that we learn to play the game of the mind. And we just learn that it is a game, first of all. And then once you learn that it is a game, you learn to, I believe, the rules and how to play the game.
Well, we'll see which one learns to play the game. We'll see what happens to that.
There is no one. There is just the game.
But maybe there is one. Maybe there isn't. Maybe there's neither one nor not one, or neither one and not one.
It is all three, and it also isn't not all three. It just keeps going. That's the thing. I think there's limitations in concept, in voice, in podcasts.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's why sometimes I question what I'm doing, but then I realize, like, no, this is the right way, you know. But it is true. There's only so far that a conversation can go.
Yeah, the whole thing is a paradox.
Yeah.
And it's a paradox that can never be satisfactorily understood conceptually. Like, I play the game like I just was playing right now with you, like the and I think it's important for people to understand, like, to take absolutely no satisfaction in their development spiritually from what they understand conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
Take no none of it seriously.
Yes.
This playing of words and thinking about things, and oh, so we become one, or oh, so it's not me that's this thought, or oh, it's like I'm gonna evolve, or I'm gonna get enlightened, or I'm not gonna be the one that gets enlightened. It's gonna be someone else, or it's gonna be something entirely different. Like, just even playing, entertaining with those types of thoughts and concepts, that very engagement with them can, and taking any satisfaction or any like sort of weight in that play,
clinging
with relationship to real attainment, is just not, it's just not it. There's no room for that.
That's why I can see sometimes this modern new age spirituality being a trap. It's almost like another form of dogma that we're moving into.
Yeah, people will get obsessed about the stages of enlightenment. Like I mentioned the four stages. Please don't, like, no one actually like think about them. Like, just don't disabuse yourself from that trap.
Yeah.
Of assuming, like, oh, stream entry will be like this. It's not like that. And it never will be like that. And what you think it will be and what it actually is are going to be 100% different because it has to be that way. It's a quantum leap, so to speak, from one dimension to another dimension that is, and it's not like, whoa, it's not like this huge dimension is opening either. It's not like this. It's um, just be careful. So sort of how I see it is be really careful with how your relationships are with these ideas.
Yes.
Um, super dangerous, big traps.
Tread lightly. It is once you realize that the mind forms habits, and it'll form habits in dogma even around ideas and concepts itself.
Yeah, so many teachers won't even talk about stream entry or enlightenment or attainments because of this very issue, because they know, they're wise enough to know, if I bring up stream entry to this person, they're gonna never get it.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna make it into something, and it'll cause so many issues for my student, and I just want my student to wake up or something like this. But people nowadays are like, I want to know everything, and I'm the same way. I want to know the exact stages of insight. I want to know the exact progress one goes through enlightenment. I want to know all of it, and I know how dangerous that is, and I can see that happening in people, that these things become challenges. So open yourself up to learning everything, but don't take any of it as something to go towards. Never a goal. Never make it a goal. Ever. Not even for a second.
Yeah.
Never make stream entry like a thing to get. Just do the practice and look very carefully.
Yeah, it's not something to attain.
It is something to attain, but it's also not something to relate yourself to in that type of way that we're used to. So it's like yes, but no. Like,
essentially, yes.
it's a really admirable goal.
Yeah.
So be very vigilant in moving towards that, but hyper focused on what exactly you're doing here and now. What is it? What's happening here? How is thinking happening? What's in this exact? If your energy, if you take all that energy towards gaining attainments and direct it into your direct investigation into your current experience, as opposed to learning how to get that attainment, you will get that attainment faster. Like, and then forget about the like, just forget it.
Yep.
Just don't even go there until you're there, and then maybe you can learn and laugh about it.
And laugh about it. Exactly. It's important to laugh, y'all, and don't take it too seriously. I'm glad you said that. It really is. It helps you, and these insights and attainments help you kind of not take it so seriously. Is it important not to take it seriously, or is it, you think it's a byproduct of certain things that we don't take life seriously because of? Like, say I come to certain insights about life and realize I am all one is all, and we are all this process kind of unfolding upon itself. Does that, you think, lead me to take it less seriously, or I can see that because I take life less seriously, or both? It's both.
I think you don't see it as a result of taking life less seriously. I wouldn't say that's what I initially meant. I think the ideas and concepts around life not to take too seriously. Life also don't take seriously either. But there are serious elements of life which should be taken sincerely, as like the potential of continuous suffering. It's up to you to take that seriously. I would recommend you do take it seriously, because you're suffering unnecessarily. Sure, suffering is an illusion, but who's engaged in that? Do you want that? Do you want an eternal suffering for your soul, or whatever you want to call it?
I don't think so.
I don't think anyone would be on board. So if you take anything seriously, take your own awakening with the utmost sincerity and the utmost seriousness and dedication. If
Yes.
you're at that point, you don't have to pretend to be dedicated if you're really not. Like, just be honest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Be honest with yourself. Know what you need. And it starts with self-inquiry, man. I think that's where it all starts. Yeah, where does this path start? You think like where is, for most people, you could sum it up. Is there like a catalyst? Do you think from does something have to happen like tragic, or maybe the opposite spectrum? Something amazing happens, like they have a baby, and there's this new insights is there. Because I feel like this, what interests me is like that catalyst to change, and it could be like a psychedelic experience or Kundalini yoga, whatever it is. There's always what interests me is knowing like there's that switch, because I think that switch is very important for all of us to come to right now. And then yes, we do the work, and then yes,
yeah,
we realize. But I think what's so important is there's something, and I can remember a moment in my life when there was that something, and I think a lot of other people can. Do you think that that's important in somebody, and do you think we're all going to kind of have that, or are some people more of just like a gradual process?
everyone's different.
Yeah.
Some are gradual, some are like Eckhart Tolle, where they're about to kill themselves and they immediately wake up
Yeah.
before that.
Do you think more so it's yeah, it's more of like trauma, right? It seems to be something where we get to like such depths in our being where we just can't take the suffering anymore, right? There's just something that's just like, oh, I can't take it.
Yeah, suffering is a catalyst, I think. It's the catalyst.
It's for us. It's not like once you realize that suffering is it is the catalyst. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
it
we're
is,
we're,
dude.
we're causing it. We're
Yeah.
causing the suffering. It's not sometimes people make it into like the universe is making me suffer for my own healing. It's
Mhm.
like, well, you're causing it. It's
Mm,
nothing anyone external is doing. You're the cause of your suffering. Everything
yeah.
you're doing is it's all you. You have to figure this out on your own. No one can fix it for you. You have to do it. To
Yeah.
do the work, do it all in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. When you get the teachings from others and look at the teachings by others, but at the end of the day, the cause of the suffering has to do with what we've misunderstood about our own relationship with reality.
I think that's the topic of this entire conversation.
Yeah,
As it seems to be, it's do you got to do you do you.
yeah,
It's
man.
that simple. Man, this is all. How long have we been talking? It's almost 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably
We could
save
probably
save
wrap it
some
up.
for the next time, man.
Yeah, I think we could just keep going. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to get off your chest while we're still recording?
Yeah, man.
Anyone listening also doesn't even know anything about you. Is there
Good.
anything you want to plug? Yeah, actually, that's probably a good thing.
um, you don't need to know anything about me.
That's good. I like
Um,
that.
if anything resonates, that's excellent. That means I did my job. Um, I would plug my Sangha, I guess, if that's something anyone is interested in. You can just pop that Discord link in the description and hop in
Okay.
and just join, just be a cool person and introduce yourself. That's all.
What kind of people you want in the Sangha? Anyone that
People,
made it through this conversation?
yeah. Honestly, if you got to this point and you don't click that link, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because you're clearly interested in something. We're both in it, so you can talk to me and Gary.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Um,
The
we can,
alternative path, right?
yeah, we're kind of low key. Like it's just very there's not a lot of people that are hanging out, but some of the people in it are like really insightful. We have some monks and nuns and some people that have walked very far in the path that are willing to like offer support and help, and they've been through their dark nights of the soul, and they've had their psychotic things, and they've gone through it and are on this other side, and they can talk about um, what to do, because without having sort of that framework, and if you go through some things, it's very hard on a person to go through spiritual evolution individually, because there's no reference point for, is this normal? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm feel like I'm going crazy. Like, well, yeah, everyone does. You go through
Yeah,
that process. It's
that's the
normal.
point.
And when you hear that, you're like, oh, it's normal. Okay, I'm gonna chill out then, because the process is gonna just calm down. There's no
Yeah.
reason to make it into, because you can very well make it into a psychological like issue if you want to. Like if something starts going a little bit weird, you can easily turn that into a spiral if you desire to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if all of a sudden you start to like, I don't know, I don't want to specifically point out any specific thing, but something weird happens, you get neurotic about that weird thing, then you spiral. But if you have someone that's like there and you just say, hey, like this is happening to me, I feel this way about myself, the reassurance and the pointing of what to do is very valuable within a
Yeah,
sangha.
that's very important. Yeah, what you have established, I think, is a lot more important than you probably can even imagine, because it's a cool resource, man. Like it's just like, where else are you gonna, like, what other time period are you going to be able to have a sangha with nuns and monks and be able to access that information and be able to talk to them and go back and forth and meditate with them? And other than in 2021, it's amazing. Like it really is an amazing thing that we take for granted, like the internet altogether.
I
It's an
mean, yeah,
amazing time.
and a lot of the people that are really like developed are just lay people. They're not even they're like, there's like one active monk, and like there's like the nuns don't really participate. Most of the sangha is driven by just people like me and you, or
Hmm.
who are just searching and finding really good resources like Daniel Ingram or Kenneth Folk or Peter Ralston, or et cetera, et cetera. Like finding good teachers, getting attainments, meditating, going to retreats, taking the path seriously as opposed to sort of a relaxation tool,
Yeah.
which I don't, oh, that's all good and fun. It's whatever. You go to the spa to do that too. It's also a good solution. Spas are actually very. I think more people should go to spas if they're trying to meditate to relax. Just go to a spa. It's like really,
Yes.
it's a lot. It just does something.
It's good energy. Yeah.
But if you're um, doing relaxation meditation and expecting to like hit nirvana or something, I would recommend you reevaluate some things.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah. Well,
Cool, man.
yeah. I mean, other than that, this was a great conversation.
Yeah, man.
It's like
It's
we went in a time warp.
yeah, that happens. I lose track of time. Time is just erases when I have a good conversation.
And that's how you know it was a good conversation.
Cool, man.
All right. Well, yeah. Other than that, man, like I said, I'll link your thing down below in the description. And I really appreciate you doing this. This was cool. Let's definitely do this again.
All right,
This
dude.
was a great time. But yeah, have a good night.
Yeah,
Peace out.
enjoy the night. Peace out, man.